In a quiet English town, a rainy October brings Evelyn and Clara together, two hearts from different worlds, drawn into a love as fragile and beautiful as the autumn leaves. From the first spark beneath the lantern-lit streets to snow-kissed winters and sun-drenched summers, their connection grows through laughter, whispered promises, and stolen kisses. But love, like the seasons, is ever-changing, and they must navigate fear, longing, and the passage of time to discover whether what began in October can truly last forever. The train slowed as it curved into Ashcombe station, its brakes sighing like something alive and tired. Through the window, Evelyn Ward watched the countryside unfold, wet fields, cottages crouched against the wind, the faint smoke of distant fires. Everything seemed softer here, slower, blurred by mist and memory. She hadn't meant to come back to the countryside. But after months of sleepless nights in London, blueprints that no longer spoke to her, meetings that felt like ghosts, she had found herself searching listings for quiet rentals far from glass towers and deadlines. Ashcombe, with its crumbling bridge and single high street, had called to her like a forgotten melody. When she stepped off the train, the air smelled of rain and wood smoke. Her coat was too thin for the chill, and her breath fogged in front of her as she walked toward the town square. The streets were slick with fallen leaves, their edges brown and curling, like old pages of a letter never sent. She found the cottage easily, ivy climbing up its walls, a crooked chimney, a wooden door painted blue. Inside, the rooms were small but filled with light, and from the window she could see the edge of the river glinting silver beneath the clouds. She unpacked little, a few clothes, a sketchbook, a fountain pen she hadn't used in years. That afternoon, restless and wanting to know the shape of her new world, Evelyn wandered down the high street. There was a bakery that smelled of cinnamon, a florist with blooms in jars, and, near the end of the lane, a narrow shop with fogged windows and a sign that read Hensley and Sons Antiques. The bell above the door chimed softly when she stepped inside. The air was warm, heavy with the scent of polished wood and time. Every surface seemed to tell a story, clocks that no longer ticked, old maps curling in their frames, shelves of porcelain and glass. Behind the counter, a woman looked up from where she was carefully restoring the gilded edge of a mirror. She was not what Evelyn expected, not elderly or frail, but around her own age, perhaps mid-30s, with chestnut hair tied loosely back in a quiet concentration that made her presence seem both fragile and firm. Their eyes met, and the world seemed to hush. "Oh," the woman said, setting down her brush. "You're new." "Just arrived," Evelyn said, her voice a little breathless. "I didn't mean to intrude." "Not at all." The woman smiled, and it was the kind of smile that warmed through the damp. "It's rare to see someone wander in during the rain." "I'm Clara." "Evelyn." Clara wiped her hands on a cloth and came around the counter. "Well, Evelyn, welcome to Ashcombe. It's quieter than London, I imagine." Evelyn looked around at the rows of antiques, all the pieces of other lives. "Quieter," she said softly, "and maybe kinder." Something flickered in Clara's eyes, recognition, perhaps, or simply the shared understanding of solitude. Outside, the rain thickened, streaking the glass in silver threads. Inside, two women stood among the relics of the past, and for the first time in a long while, Evelyn felt she might be standing at the beginning of something. The rain had not stopped by morning. It fell in a steady whisper, soft enough to be soothing, constant enough to be company. Evelyn watched it through her window with a mug of tea cupped between her hands. The world outside was blurred and silvered, roofs glistening, river rippling, the town wrapped in a quiet kind of grace. She'd meant to start sketching again. Her pencils and tracing paper lay ready on the table, a promise she couldn't yet keep. The lines would not come. Not yet. So she put on her coat and walked. The high street glowed faintly under the drizzle. There were people with umbrellas, the smell of scones drifting from the bakery, and the faint sound of church bells from across the green. When she reached the antique shop, she hesitated, not wanting to appear too eager, yet feeling drawn in all the same. She pushed open the door. The same soft bell, the same warm light. Clara looked up from a wooden chair she was sanding by hand. A streak of sawdust dusted her sleeve, and there was a curl of hair loose against her cheek. "Back so soon?" Clara said, smiling. I was nearby, Evelyn replied. And it's still raining. Then that's reason enough. Clara gestured to the counter, where a small kettle steamed beside two mismatched cups. Tea? Evelyn hesitated only a moment. Yes, please. The tea was strong, dark, and comfortingly ordinary. They stood by the front window, steam curling between them, watching the rain trace new paths down the glass. People say October is the dying month, Clara said quietly. But I've always thought it's the kindest. Everything fades gently. Nothing rushes. Evelyn smiled faintly. You make it sound peaceful. Maybe it is. Or maybe that's how I choose to see it. Their eyes met, not for long, but long enough. Evelyn felt something stir inside her, a slow warmth that had nothing to do with the tea. Clara turned away first, setting her cup down. I'm glad you stopped by, Evelyn. It's not often we get new faces in town, let alone ones that don't immediately leave. I might stay a while, Evelyn said. I think I need to remember what quiet feels like. You've come to the right place, then. They shared a smile, small, certain, and lingering. As Evelyn left the shop, the rain had eased to a mist, soft enough that she didn't bother with her umbrella. She walked along the river, listening to the water's slow murmur, her heart strangely light. For the first time in months, she felt the faintest pulse of inspiration, a design taking shape in her mind. Not of glass or steel, but of something human, warm, and alive. And somewhere behind her, Clara watched through the window, her hand resting on the doorframe, wondering why the day suddenly felt brighter. By the end of the week, Ashcombe began to stir with its quiet excitement, posters taped to lampposts, bunting draped across the high street. The autumn antique fair was the town's small claim to fame, drawing visitors from nearby villages for tea, pastries, and curiosities that smelled of time. Evelyn discovered it by accident, reading the notice board outside the grocer's. When she mentioned it to Clara the next morning, Clara laughed, a warm, musical sound that seemed to fill the dim shop like sunlight. I should have guessed you'd find out, she said. I'm helping organize it. My father started the fair years ago. I suppose I'm carrying on the habit. Do you need help? Evelyn asked, almost before she realized the words had left her mouth. Clara tilted her head, studying her. You're volunteering? I have time. And no one here to talk to except my kettle. That made Clara smile again, that same soft curve that made Evelyn feel oddly unsteady. All right then, Clara said. Come by tomorrow morning. We'll need extra hands to carry things. I promise it's more charming than it sounds. Saturday dawned clear but cold, a crisp blue sky stretched above roofs glistening with frost. Evelyn arrived early, breath misting, scarf tight around her neck. Clara was already there, arranging a table of glass bottles that caught the light like jewels. You came, Clara said. I said I would. Together they worked in easy rhythm, setting up shelves, hanging signs, brushing dust from forgotten trinkets. The fair slowly came alive around them, the chatter of vendors, the smell of mulled cider, the laughter of children chasing leaves across the cobblestones. Evelyn found herself watching Clara when she thought she wouldn't be noticed, the way her hands moved, sure and patient, the way she smiled at an elderly couple who'd stopped to reminisce over an old clock, the way her hair caught the gold of the morning. You're staring, Clara said lightly, not looking up. Evelyn felt the heat rise in her cheeks. Just admiring your efficiency. That's one word for it. Clara's tone was teasing, but her eyes softened when they met Evelyn's. For a moment, the noise of the fair seemed to fade, just two women standing in the bright October air, and something delicate and unspoken passing between them. By afternoon, the crowds had thinned. The sun dipped low, staining the river copper. Evelyn and Clara sat behind the stall with paper cups of cider, their shoulders brushing occasionally, each small contact like a quiet confession. Clara sighed, watching the last of the leaves drift across the square. You know, I almost didn't do the fair this year. It's a lot to manage alone. I'm glad you did, Evelyn said. Otherwise I might never have met you." Clara turned her head. There was no teasing now, only a stillness that made Evelyn's pulse quicken. "Maybe some things are meant to happen," Clara murmured. "Even late in the year." A breeze passed, carrying the faint scent of apples and wood smoke. Neither of them spoke again, but in the silence between them, something wordless had already begun. Ashcombe shimmered that night. The town square, usually so still, was strung with soft lights and paper lanterns that drifted gently in the breeze. The lantern walk was an old tradition, a celebration of harvest and gratitude, of endings that made way for beginnings. Children carried their glowing paper creations through the streets, and the whole town seemed caught between firelight and shadow. Evelyn hadn't planned to stay long. But as she stood by the river's edge, lanterns bobbing on the dark water like floating stars, she found herself searching for one face. And then she saw her. Clara, crossing the square with a lantern of her own, a simple thing, white and gold, her cheeks touched by light, her hair caught in the wind. She spotted Evelyn at once, her expression softening into something that felt like home. "You came," she said when she reached her. "I wanted to see what the town looks like when it forgets to be quiet." Clara smiled. "It remembers again tomorrow." They fell into step along the river path, walking slowly as others passed by, couples, families, laughter trailing like smoke behind them. The night smelled of cider and pine. Somewhere, a violin played faintly from the square. Evelyn glanced at Clara, her voice low. "I can't remember the last time I felt like I belonged anywhere." Clara looked ahead. "Maybe belonging isn't something you find. Maybe it finds you when you stop running." The word struck something in Evelyn, a truth she'd been avoiding for years. She'd spent her life designing spaces for others, building structures that outlasted feelings, and yet she'd never built a home for herself. Now, beside Clara, under lantern light and falling leaves, she felt something close to it. They stopped by the bridge, where lanterns drifted downstream, golden trails across the dark. Clara set hers gently in the water, watching it float away. Evelyn knelt and did the same. "Make a wish," Clara said softly. "I don't believe in wishes." "Try." Evelyn hesitated, then whispered, "I wish I could stay." When she looked up, Clara's eyes were on her, steady, searching. "Then stay," Clara said. It was that simple, and that impossible. But the air between them changed, charged, trembling, alive. Evelyn reached out, brushing a damp strand of hair from Clara's face. The world seemed to still, the lantern light painting gold on their skin. Clara didn't move away. For a moment, one fleeting, perfect heartbeat, they were suspended in something wordless and tender, a truth neither had dared to name. Then laughter echoed nearby, the spell breaking softly. Clara stepped back, her breath visible in the cold. "It's getting late," she murmured. "You should come by tomorrow. I've something to show you." Evelyn nodded, her heart still racing. "I will." As Clara walked away, her lantern light fading into the mist, Evelyn stayed by the river, watching until the water swallowed the last of the glow. The next morning, Evelyn found herself walking past the antique shop even before breakfast. The sun was pale, the streets slick from last night's mist, but something in her chest pulled her toward Clara's door. Inside, the shop smelled of wood polish and faint earthiness. Clara looked up from a stack of old books, eyes lighting with quiet surprise. "You came early," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "I didn't want to wait," Evelyn admitted. Clara's smile softened, and she set the books aside. "Good. I was hoping you'd come. There's something I want to show you." She led Evelyn toward the back of the shop. There was a narrow door, almost hidden behind tall shelves of porcelain and brass. Clara opened it with a small brass key, the hinges creaking like a secret awakening. Inside was a small, dust-fingered room, lined with shelves full of carefully labeled boxes, faded letters, and photographs. Sunlight fell in a golden square through a single window, catching motes of dust that danced in the quiet. "This was my father's workroom," Clara explained. Her voice was soft, reverent. He kept everything here. Tools, letters, bits of stories he collected. When he died, I couldn't bear to let it go. Evelyn moved closer, touching the edge of a box as if afraid it would vanish. It's beautiful. Like a memory made real. Clara watched her, heart fluttering in a way she hadn't expected. It is, she said. I wanted you to see it because I trust you. I don't often let anyone in here. Evelyn's fingers lingered on the box, then she looked at Clara. You don't have to say it. I know. Anne. I feel honored. The words hung between them, soft and fragile, but undeniable. Clara stepped closer. Evelyn's breath caught. For the first time, the distance between them, emotional, protective, hesitant, seemed to dissolve. Clara reached out, brushing her hand lightly against Evelyn's. I like having you here. Evelyn closed her eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of that touch seep into her chest. I like being here, she whispered. Time seemed to fold around them, the room small, the sunlight soft, and the world outside forgotten. Slowly, almost shyly, Clara leaned forward, and Evelyn met her halfway. Their lips touched, tentative, gentle, a question and an answer all at once. When they pulled back, they were both smiling, breathless, the space between them charged with quiet wonder. You're amazing, Evelyn said softly. You too, Clara replied, her voice barely above a whisper. I think this is the start of something, isn't it? Evelyn nodded, heart swelling. The start of something I never want to end. Outside, the streets were brightening with morning light. Inside, the hidden room became their sanctuary, a place where the past, the present, and the promise of love could coexist, warm and alive. The sky had turned a bruised shade of purple when Evelyn returned to the cottage that evening, the crisp October air curling through her scarf. The streets of Ashcombe were emptying, the last of the lanterns flickering in shop windows, and the faint smell of wood smoke and roasted chestnuts filled the air. She had promised herself she wouldn't linger, yet her thoughts kept drifting back to Clara, to the hidden room, to the gentle press of her hand, to the soft curve of her smile. Later, there was a knock at her door. Evelyn opened it to find Clara standing there, a small basket in her arms. I brought supper, Clara said, her cheeks flushed from the cold. Soup, bread, and, well, something sweet. I thought we could share it. Evelyn's heart lifted. Come in. They settled in the small kitchen, the kettle whistling softly, steam curling around them. Clara unpacked the basket with care, and they shared the meal across the tiny table. Words flowed easily, laughter, confessions, stories of childhood and past mistakes. Outside, the wind rattled the window panes, but inside, warmth wrapped them both. Evelyn found herself leaning forward, drawn to Clara's presence in a way she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. You're different here, Clara said softly, brushing crumbs from the table. You seem lighter. Evelyn hesitated, then admitted, I think I finally feel like I can breathe. Like maybe I'm meant to be happy. Clara reached out, covering Evelyn's hand with her own. You deserve that. And maybe I can be part of it. Their eyes met, and in that gaze, months of loneliness, doubt, and longing seemed to dissolve. The room felt suspended, cocooned in candlelight and the scent of autumn spices. As the evening deepened, Evelyn found herself resting her head lightly against Clara's shoulder, listening to the quiet rhythms of her breathing. The night stretched long and soft around them, each moment a gentle thread weaving them closer together. October feel. And as the fire flickered and the shadows danced on the walls, both women knew that these October evenings, shared warmth, quiet confessions, was only the beginning of a love that had finally found its home. The morning dawned gray and heavy, clouds low over the river, the town wrapped in a fine, persistent drizzle. Evelyn stared out her window, watching the rain blur the rooftops and streets, a steady rhythm that seemed to echo the pulse in her chest. By mid-morning, she couldn't resist. Pulling on her coat and boots, she walked to the high street, the cold droplets soaking through her scarf. The antique shop's warm light glimmered like a beacon. Clara looked up when she entered, cheeks flushed, hair damp from the rain that had caught her on her way to open the shop. "You came," Clara said, half laughing, half surprised. "I couldn't stay away," Evelyn admitted, shaking off her umbrella. Clara stepped closer, brushing a strand of wet hair from Evelyn's face. The contact, small and intimate, sent warmth rushing through Evelyn despite the chill outside. "Good," Clara said softly. "Because today, I want to show you something." She led Evelyn to the rear of the shop, past familiar shelves and hidden corners, to the old courtyard behind the building. The rain fell heavier here, pattering on the stones, running in little rivulets along the walls. Clara smiled, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Dance with me?" she asked. Evelyn blinked. "In the rain?" Clara laughed, that same musical sound that made Evelyn's chest ache with longing. "Exactly. Sometimes the world is too small to wait for perfect weather." For a moment, Evelyn hesitated, the rain soaking her coat, her hair plastered to her face. But Clara's hand was warm in hers, and something inside her gave way. She let herself step closer. They moved together slowly, awkwardly at first, then more fluidly as the rhythm of the falling rain carried them. Laughter slipped between them, soft and breathless, merging with the tapping of droplets on stone and tin. Evelyn felt her heart expand in a way it hadn't for years. The rain washed away doubt, hesitation, the lingering fear of being alone. Here, with Clara, she felt entirely present, entirely known. At last, they stopped, breathless, bodies pressed close, soaked through but unbothered. Clara cupped Evelyn's face, and Evelyn leaned into the touch, tasting the rain on her lips as their mouths met, soft, tender, urgent all at once. When they finally parted, the rain was falling more gently, silver thread streaking the courtyard. Evelyn rested her forehead against Clara's. I think I've been waiting for this," Evelyn whispered. Clara's smile was slow, sure, and all-encompassing. "And now you have it." For the first time, Evelyn felt fully alive in the world, rain on her skin, warmth in her chest, and love that promised to stay. The days that followed were soft, golden, and full of quiet magic. Ashcombe seemed transformed in Evelyn's eyes, every rain-slicked cobblestone, every corner of Clara's shop, every glimmer of sunset on the river held a new beauty, because they were shared. Morning light fell into Evelyn's cottage, warm and lazy. She often found herself making tea for two, leaving a steaming cup on the windowsill for Clara before heading to her own sketchbook. Sometimes Clara arrived unannounced, scarf still damp from the mist, and they would share breakfast in companionable silence, fingers brushing, laughter spilling softly into the air. Clara showed her the town in ways Evelyn had never imagined, hidden paths along the riverbank, quiet cafes where the smell of cinnamon rolls made conversation easier, corners of the park where the leaves were thick and gold. They moved through the days as if October itself had conspired to give them space, time, and gentle joy. One afternoon, Evelyn followed Clara to the antique shop after lunch, where Clara had begun restoring a small writing desk. Evelyn picked up a brush, dusting the intricate carvings with care. "You have a good touch," Clara said, leaning over her shoulder. "Precise, patient. I like that about you." Evelyn smiled, heartwarming. "I'm trying to keep up with you." Clara laughed softly, the sound curling around them like sunlight. She brushed a strand of hair from Evelyn's face and lingered close, their proximity electric yet tender. "You don't have to try. You fit here, with me, with all of this." Evelyn felt her chest swell. She had lived so long believing she didn't belong anywhere. Now, with Clara, she felt rooted, anchored, and free all at once. That evening, they walked together along the river as the sun dipped low, painting the water in streaks of rose and gold. Evelyn slipped her hand into Clara's, the gesture quiet, unspoken, but full of promise. "I don't want this to end," Evelyn said softly. "Neither do I," Clara replied, squeezing her hand. "October comes every year, but this, us. I want it to last beyond the season." Evelyn smiled, resting her head against Clara's shoulder. "Then let's make it last. One day at a time." The leaves swirled around them, golden and amber, as if applauding their quiet vow. The air was crisp, the river calm, and in the soft twilight, they walked together, two hearts tethered gently, a love blooming fully amidst the beauty of October. The first frost arrived silently, coating Ashcombe's streets with a fragile sparkle. Evelyn woke to a world glazed in silver, the river glinting like glass beneath the pale sun. She wrapped herself in a thick scarf and coat, savoring the crisp air, knowing that Clara would soon appear with her own warmth and smile. True to form, Clara arrived mid-morning, breath visible in the cold, carrying a basket of firewood. "Thought you might like a fire," she said, cheeks pink from the frost. "It's bitter enough to make indoors feel like paradise." Evelyn laughed, feeling the familiar swell of affection. "You always think of everything." They stacked wood in the cottage's small fireplace, sparks rising as the first flames caught. The scent of burning oak filled the room, and soon the chill was chased away by the golden heat of the fire. They settled near it, legs tucked under them, sipping cocoa Clara had brought in a thermos. "This is perfect," Evelyn murmured, letting the warmth seep into her bones. Clara's hand found hers, fingers entwining effortlessly. "It's us," she said softly. Comfortable, steady, alive. Outside, snow began to fall lightly, dusting the windowsills and the ivy outside. Inside, Evelyn and Clara shared quiet touches, brushing hair from foreheads, fingers lingering, soft kisses that tasted of cocoa and hope. The world beyond the fire faded. Hours slipped by unnoticed. They talked of everything and nothing, memories of childhood, dreams for the future, the strange beauty of this small town that had become their sanctuary. Every glance, every laugh, every whispered word wove a thread of intimacy, a promise that they would face the cold together. As evening fell, the firelight dancing on the walls, Evelyn rested her head against Clara's shoulder, feeling the steady beat of her heart. "I think I've never been this happy," she said. Clara tilted her head, brushing her lips lightly across Evelyn's hair. "Then stay happy," she whispered. "With me." Outside, snowflakes tumbled silently to the earth, blanketing the town in stillness. Inside, the cottage glowed with warmth, laughter, and love, the beginning of a life together, protected from the cold by fire, trust, and the quiet certainty of hearts aligned. The morning sun reflected off the snow, turning Ashcombe into a glittering wonderland. Evelyn pulled her coat tighter around her, boots crunching on the frosted cobblestones. Clara was already waiting at the corner of the high street, scarf wrapped snugly, cheeks flushed pink. "You made it," Clara said, grinning, and reached for Evelyn's hand. "Wouldn't miss it," Evelyn replied, squeezing hers back. They wandered down the main street, stopping to admire shop windows dusted with frost, the display of holly and twinkling lights catching their eyes. Children skated on the frozen pond nearby, their laughter echoing across the square. Evelyn laughed too, feeling lighter than she had in years. Clara tugged her toward a narrow alley where the snow was untouched. "Race you to the bridge," she challenged. Evelyn hesitated, then smiled and sprinted, boots slipping slightly on the ice. They collided in laughter halfway across, breath forming clouds in the air, hair sticking to wet cheeks. Clara wrapped her arms around Evelyn, spinning her in a quick, dizzying circle. "Stop!" Evelyn gasped between laughs. "You're going to make me fall." "I like falling, especially with you," Clara whispered, and kissed her lightly, snowflakes settling on their lashes. They continued along the riverbank, hand in hand, leaving footprints in the snow. The town was silent except for the crunch of their steps and the distant call of a bird. Every now and then, Clara brushed a strand of damp hair from Evelyn's face, or tucked her mittened hand into hers for warmth. Finally, they reached the old wooden bridge. The river glimmered beneath a thin layer of ice, reflecting the pale sky. Clara leaned against the railing, pulling Evelyn close. "Do you remember last October?" she asked softly, voice almost lost in the wind. Evelyn smiled, remembering the rain, the lanterns, the first spark of connection. "How could I forget? That was the day everything started." "And now look at us," Clara murmured. "From rain to snow, one season to the next." I've never felt more certain of anything. Evelyn rested her forehead against Clara's, warmth against the chill. Neither have I, somehow. I know we're exactly where we're meant to be. The snow fell around them, light and silent, as if the world itself were holding its breath. In the midst of the frost and quiet streets, two hearts beat as one, playful, tender, and entirely theirs. As they walked back toward town, their laughter mingling with the soft winter air, Evelyn felt an overwhelming certainty. Love had found her, and this small English town, under the spell of October and now winter, had given her a home she would never leave. The evenings in Ashcombe had grown long, shadows stretching across the streets as frost clung to windows and rooftops. Inside Evelyn's cottage, however, warmth ruled, the fire crackling in the hearth, the scent of burning oak mingling with spiced tea, and Clara's presence beside her like sunlight distilled. Evelyn curled on the sofa, a soft blanket draped around her shoulders, sketchbook resting forgotten in her lap. Clara knelt beside the hearth, tending the fire with practiced ease, tossing small pieces of wood onto the flames. Every spark made the room glow brighter, casting golden light across their faces. You know, Clara said softly, brushing a loose strand of hair from Evelyn's forehead, I've never been good at promises. I always thought they were too heavy to keep. Evelyn turned her gaze toward her, intrigued. And now? Clara smiled, eyes meeting hers with quiet certainty. Now, I think some promises are easy. Some are, meant to be. Evelyn's heart thumped. She leaned closer, resting her hand on Clara's, feeling the warmth through thick wool. And what promise would that be? Clara's lips curved in a gentle, almost shy smile. To be here. With you. Always, if you'll let me. Evelyn felt a rush of emotion, relief, joy, longing, all wrapped into a single moment. Always, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. They sat together, fingers intertwined, and let the fire speak for the rest of the room. Outside, snow drifted lazily, covering the world in white silence. Inside, laughter, whispers, and gentle touches wove a cocoon around them. Hours passed unnoticed. Clara pressed her forehead to Evelyn's, whispering about small, mundane things, the shape of the new leaves in spring, the books they wanted to read, the corners of the town they still hadn't explored. Evelyn listened, every word sinking deep, feeling the profound truth of belonging for the first time. Eventually, the fire burned low, embers glowing like tiny stars. Evelyn yawned, smiling sleepily. Clara leaned over, brushing her lips across Evelyn's temple, a promise sealed without words. Good night, Clara murmured. Good night, Evelyn replied, resting her head against Clara's chest, feeling the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. Outside, the town slept under a blanket of frost and snow. Inside, two women dreamed quietly together, hearts tethered, love rooted deep, and a future unfolding with the gentle certainty of winter turning to spring. Ashcombe woke to the first heavy snowfall of the season. The streets were blanketed in pristine white, rooftops sparkling under a pale winter sun. Evelyn stepped outside, boots crunching in the fresh snow, her breath forming small clouds in the cold air. Clara was waiting by the antique shop, bundled in a thick coat and scarf, her cheeks pink with the cold. When she saw Evelyn, her smile was bright enough to rival the sun glinting off the snow. You came early, Clara said, laughing as she held out a mittened hand. Perfect for snowball practice. Evelyn grinned. You're on. They spent the morning in playful battle, soft snowballs flying, laughter echoing down the high street, cheeks flushed, hair dusted white. At one point, Clara tackled Evelyn gently into a drift of snow, and they collapsed together, breathless and laughing. Then, for a moment, silence fell. They lay side by side in the snow, snowflakes settling on lashes and hair. Evelyn turned to Clara, heart racing. I love this, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Being with you. Here, now, everything. Clara's eyes softened, her hand brushing Evelyn's cheek. Evelyn, she murmured, voice thick with emotion. I love you too. I've wanted to say it for so long, but I wanted it to feel right. And it feels right now. The words hung in the cold air, simple and true, as if the snow itself had paused to listen. Evelyn smiled through tears, leaning forward to capture Clara's lips in a kiss that was warm, tender, and unbreakable. When they finally pulled back, Clara rested her forehead against Evelyn's. "No matter what comes," she said softly, "we face it together." "Together," Evelyn echoed, fingers entwining with hers, hearts aligned in a rhythm that felt eternal. They rose, brushing snow from their coats, laughter returning as they continued through the town, leaving footprints side by side. The streets were quiet, the world washed in white, and for the first time in their lives, they felt completely and irrevocably home, in Ashcombe, in the snow, and in each other's hearts. That evening, the snow had slowed to a gentle fall, dusting Ashcombe in quiet silver. Inside Evelyn's cottage, the fire roared softly in the hearth, casting dancing shadows across the walls. The air was warm, scented with pine and the faint tang of cocoa. Evelyn and Clara sat close on the sofa, knees brushing, shoulders touching. Outside, the world was silent and cold. Inside, the only heat they needed came from each other. "I was thinking," Evelyn began, tracing patterns on Clara's hand with her thumb. "About us. About everything that's happened since October." Clara's eyes met hers, steady and soft. "I've been thinking too," she said. "Every day. You've changed my world, Evelyn." Evelyn smiled, her heart swelling. "You've changed mine. You made me believe I could be happy, that I could belong somewhere, with someone." Clara leaned closer, brushing a loose strand of hair from Evelyn's face. "And you belong with me. Here. Always." Evelyn's chest tightened with emotion. "I want that. I want us. I want everything we can have together." Clara's lips curved into a tender smile. "Then we make a promise," she said, her voice soft but certain. "No matter what comes, storms, distance, doubts, we face it together. Always." Evelyn felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. "Always," she whispered, sealing the vow with a kiss that was slow, intimate, and full of the love they had nurtured for months. They settled back, fingers entwined, sharing warmth and whispers. They spoke of dreams, the small ones of daily life in Ashcombe, the larger ones of travels they hoped to take together, the quiet joys they would find in each other's presence. Every word wove them closer, every laugh and sigh a thread strengthening the fabric of their bond. The fire burned low, embers glowing like tiny stars, while the snow continued to fall outside. Evelyn rested her head against Clara's chest, listening to the steady heartbeat beneath her ear, and felt a peace she had never known. Here, in the glow of firelight, they had found something rare and unshakable, a love that was patient, tender, and enduring. The world outside could freeze, storms could come, and time could pass, but in this room, by this fire, their hearts had made a home for each other. The snow had settled into a soft hush over Ashcombe, blanketing the town in stillness. Evelyn sat by the window of her cottage, sketchbook open but untouched, watching the world glimmer in white. Clara's presence beside her was a comforting weight, steady, warm, and entirely familiar. They had spent the day tending the fire, brewing tea, and sharing quiet conversations. It was the kind of day that felt infinite, where the clock's hands seemed to slow, and every moment was theirs alone. "I've been thinking," Evelyn said softly, tracing a finger along the rim of her cup, "about how much has changed since October." Clara smiled, leaning back into the sofa cushions. "It's been extraordinary. I never expected to find someone like you. And yet here you are." Evelyn turned to her, eyes bright. "I never expected to feel at home anywhere. But with you, I do. And not just in this cottage or this town, in the world, I feel like I belong. With you." Clara reached for her hand, intertwining fingers with a gentle squeeze. "You do. You belong here. With me. And with everything this little town has to offer." The fire crackled, sending sparks dancing across the hearth. Outside, the snow reflected the soft light, the world silent and serene. Inside, Evelyn and Clara sat side by side, hearts aligned, speaking in whispers, laughter, and sighs. They reminisced about their first meeting in the antique shop, the October fair, the lantern walk, and the first snowfall, milestones of their journey that had felt both ordinary and miraculous. Every memory was threaded with warmth, trust, and a deepening affection that neither had anticipated but both had nurtured. "I can't wait for spring," Evelyn said, smiling. "To walk along the riverbank again, to see the flowers bloom, and to see what comes next for us." Clara pressed her lips to Evelyn's temple, her voice soft and sure. "We'll face it together. Every season, every change, every new day." The snow continued to fall outside, gentle and unending, a mirror to the quiet constancy of their love. In that moment, Evelyn knew something profound. Life would continue, storms would pass, and the world would shift, but their love, nurtured in the quiet months of October and the winter that followed, would endure. They stayed like that for hours, hands entwined, hearts full, and the fire casting a golden glow over everything. In the stillness of winter, they found not only warmth but certainty, the beautiful, simple truth of belonging, of love, and of home. February mornings were crisp, the sun pale but determined, glinting off frost-lined rooftops and shimmering across the frozen river. Evelyn woke early, drawn by the soft hush of the town, and found Clara already awake, arranging flowers in a small vase by the window. "Good morning," Evelyn said, voice soft, as she approached. Clara looked up and smiled, cheeks flushed from the chill. "Good morning. Tea?" Evelyn nodded, settling beside her at the small table. Steam curled from their cups, filling the kitchen with warmth. The world outside was cold and still, but inside, life felt alive, comforting, and shared. "Do you remember last October?" Clara asked, her fingers brushing Evelyn's as they reached for their cups. Evelyn smiled. "How could I forget? Rain, lanterns, that first spark. And now look at us," Clara said, squeezing her hand. "From October to February, we've built something. Something steady." Evelyn felt a swell of emotion. "I've never been this happy," she whispered. "You've made me believe in love again." Clara leaned closer, resting her forehead against Evelyn's. "Then we make a promise," she murmured. "To keep building, together. To find joy in the little things, to face challenges side by side, and to never forget how we started, in rain, in October, and with hearts willing to risk it all." Evelyn nodded, tears prickling her eyes. "Always," she said, echoing the word that had become their vow. The day stretched before them, filled with simple adventures, a walk along the snow-dusted riverbank, visits to the town bakery, exploring quiet lanes they hadn't yet wandered. Every glance, every brush of hands, every shared laugh reinforced the bond between them. That evening, back in the cottage, they sat together by the fire. Clara rested her head against Evelyn's shoulder, and Evelyn held her close, warmth spreading through them both. "I love this life we're building," Evelyn said softly. "So do I," Clara replied. "And I can't wait to see what comes next, spring, summer, every season after, with you." Outside, the frost glimmered under a silver moon. Inside, two hearts beat in perfect rhythm, anchored in love, trust, and the quiet joy of a bond that had begun one rainy October morning and had only grown stronger with time. March arrived with gentle rains and the first tender shoots of green along Ashcombe streets. The air smelled of wet earth, budding flowers, and a promise of new beginnings. Evelyn walked along the river, scarf tossed aside, letting the wind tousle her hair, heart light and full. Clara met her at the antique shop, carrying a small bouquet of daffodils. "For you," she said, smiling, her eyes catching the morning sun. Evelyn took the flowers, inhaling their delicate scent. "Thank you. They're perfect." Clara shrugged playfully. "Perfect like you, I hope." They laughed, hands brushing, and walked together through the town. The streets had awakened with spring, shop windows painted with pastel flowers, children chasing puddles, the river glinting with sunlight. Every moment felt alive, vibrant, and full of possibility. They spent the afternoon exploring quiet lanes, discovering hidden gardens, and sharing stolen kisses under flowering trees. Evelyn felt a thrill she hadn't known since October, the joy of being seen, loved, and entirely understood. Back at the cottage, they planted flowers on the small windowsill, laughing as soil spilled over their gloves and fingers. "You make everything brighter," Evelyn said, brushing a smudge of dirt from Clara's cheek. Clara's hand lingered on Evelyn's, warmth meeting warmth. "You bring life to my world," she murmured. "Every season, every day, every moment, better because you're in it." As evening fell, they sat together on the porch, watching the sky blush with the last light of day. The world seemed soft, full of promise, and entirely theirs. Evelyn leaned her head against Clara's shoulder. "I love how we've grown, through rain, snow, and now spring. With you, everything feels possible." Clara kissed her temple. "And it is. With us, always." The first blooms of spring mirrored the awakening in their hearts, a love fully realized, tender yet strong, playful yet profound. In Ashcombe, under budding trees and golden sunsets, Evelyn and Clara's journey had only just begun, and the seasons ahead promised a lifetime of shared warmth, laughter, and devotion. April mornings in Ashcombe carried the scent of rain-soaked earth and blossoming flowers. The town had fully awakened from winter, streets lined with fresh greenery and sunlight glinting on rooftops. Evelyn and Clara strolled through the market square, hands entwined, laughter mingling with the chatter of vendors and the distant call of birds. "I love this time of year," Evelyn said, spinning slowly beneath the soft drizzle. "Everything feels possible, fresh, like we can grow along with it." Clara smiled, brushing a wet strand of hair from Evelyn's face. "That's exactly how I feel with you. Every day, something new blooms in us." They paused by a small fountain in the square, where ducks waddled and children tossed breadcrumbs into the water. Clara tugged Evelyn close, pressing a playful kiss to her lips. "We've had our seasons," she murmured. "Rain, frost, snow, and now spring. But I want every season to be like this, full of life, laughter, and love." Evelyn rested her forehead against Clara's, heart swelling. "I think it can be. With you, it already is." They wandered to the riverbank, where wildflowers pushed through the soil, and the water reflected the soft light of a cloudy sky. Evelyn found a smooth stone and skipped it across the surface. Clara laughed, trying her hand, and the two spent hours playing, teasing, and sharing quiet conversations, secrets, dreams, and small confessions that strengthened the bond between them. By evening, they returned to the cottage, carrying a handful of blooms for the windowsill and pockets full of memories. They lit the fire, poured tea, and settled together, shoulders touching, fingers entwined, hearts tethered in perfect harmony. "I've been thinking," Evelyn said softly, tracing circles on Clara's hand, "about the future. About us. I want to make plans, small ones, big ones, just us, together." Clara's eyes shone, warm and certain. "I was hoping you'd say that. I've been dreaming of the same things, adventures, mornings like this, and quiet nights together. With you, every dream feels possible." They stayed there long after night fell, talking, laughing, and planning, weaving dreams into reality, letting the promise of spring mirror the growth of their hearts. Outside, Ashcombe rested under a gentle April rain. Inside, Evelyn and Clara's love thrived, tender, playful, unshakable. They had endured the seasons together, and now, with spring awakening, their hearts were fully entwined, ready to face every challenge and joy that the world might bring. May arrived with warm sunlight and the gentle hum of life returning to Ashcombe. The town was alive with color, roses climbing along fences, tulips nodding in the gardens, and the river shimmering gold under long afternoons of sun. Evelyn and Clara wandered through the town together, hands entwined, hearts light, laughter spilling freely. "This is my favorite time of year," Evelyn said, spinning slowly beneath a canopy of blossoms. "Everything is alive, bright, like the world is smiling at us." Clara laughed softly, catching her hand. "And we deserve it. After everything, we've earned our happiness." They visited the market, sampling fresh strawberries and honey, stopping at their favorite cafe for tea and scones. Clara playfully draped a flower crown over Evelyn's hair, who laughed as she balanced it crookedly on her head. "I look ridiculous," she exclaimed. "You look perfect," Clara replied, leaning in for a kiss, warm and lingering. "Perfect and ridiculous, my favorite combination." Later, they found themselves at the riverbank, blankets spread under an ancient oak. Evelyn rested her head on Clara's lap, tracing patterns on her hands while Clara ran her fingers through her hair. The air smelled sweet with blossoms, and the gentle rustle of leaves whispered through the warm breeze. "I never imagined love could feel like this," Evelyn said softly. "Safe, exciting, tender, everything I've ever wanted and more." Clara smiled, brushing a kiss across her forehead. "Neither did I. But with you, it does. Every day, I fall a little more in love with you." The sun dipped low, casting golden light across the water, and Evelyn lifted her head, pressing her lips to Clara's in a kiss that was both playful and profound, a celebration of everything they had shared and everything yet to come. As evening settled, they walked home through streets bathed in the soft glow of twilight, hands intertwined, hearts aligned. The town hummed quietly around them, and the scent of flowers lingered in the air. May had brought warmth, color, and life, just as Evelyn and Clara had brought joy, trust, and love into each other's worlds. Together, they had weathered autumn rains, winter frost, and February snow, and now in the gentle bloom of spring, their love was fully, undeniably alive. June in Ashcombe was warm and golden, the sun spilling across rooftops and riverbanks, bathing the town in light. Birds sang from every tree, and the scent of honeysuckle lingered in the air. Evelyn stepped outside, breathing in the summer warmth, and found Clara waiting by the garden gate, sun hat tilted playfully. "Ready for an adventure?" Clara asked, eyes sparkling. Evelyn grinned, slipping her hand into Clara's. "Always." They wandered through fields at the edge of town, wildflowers brushing their fingertips, the tall grass bending under their steps. Laughter echoed as they chased each other through sun-dappled clearings, racing to see who could reach the old oak first. Evelyn fell into Clara's arms, both of them breathless, and kissed her with a mix of joy, love, and the thrill of summer. Later, they picnicked beside the river, blankets spread across soft grass, strawberries and bread from the market laid out between them. Clara leaned against Evelyn, murmuring softly about dreams they had shared and adventures they wanted to take, trips across England, maybe further, exploring the world together. "You make everything feel possible," Evelyn said, eyes bright. "I've never felt this alive, this full." Clara brushed a strand of hair from her face, smiling. "You make me feel the same. Every day, every moment, you make my world brighter." As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, they walked hand in hand back through Ashcombe. The town glowed in evening light, streets quiet and warm. At the cottage, they settled by the fire, letting the golden rays mingle with the gentle flicker of flames. Clara rested her head on Evelyn's shoulder. "I want this life, to last. Every season, every year, forever." Evelyn pressed her lips to Clara's hair, heart swelling. "Forever," she echoed. "Always with you." June promised warmth, adventure, and endless days of laughter, love, and intimacy. Evelyn and Clara had weathered seasons together, and now, under the golden summer sun, their hearts were fully entwined, confident, steady, and ready to face every moment together. July mornings were bright and long in Ashcombe, the sun stretching across the town in golden waves. Evelyn woke to birdsong and the soft hum of life outside. Clara was already awake, sketching in a notebook by the open window, sunlight catching the edges of her hair. "Good morning," Evelyn said, stretching and smiling. Clara looked up, her eyes warm. "Morning. Ready for today's adventure?" Evelyn laughed, pulling on her shoes. "Always." They spent the day exploring beyond the town, following winding country paths where wildflowers swayed in the breeze and butterflies flitted lazily through the air. Evelyn collected small treasures, smooth stones, bright petals, while Clara sketched the scenery and Evelyn herself, capturing the joy and light of these summer days. By midday, they found a quiet meadow, sunlight dancing on their skin, and settled under a sprawling oak. They shared a picnic, laughing over small mishaps, a stray bee, a tipped basket, and teasing each other gently. Evelyn felt her chest swell with gratitude, for the warmth of the sun, the beauty of the meadow, and above all, the steady, unwavering presence of Clara. "You know," Evelyn said softly, leaning back against the grass, "I never imagined a life like this. So simple, so full, so ours." Clara brushed her hand across Evelyn's cheek. "It's ours because we make it ours. Every choice, every step, every shared moment. That's the magic." As the afternoon stretched, they wandered along a quiet riverbank, feet dipping into the cool water, laughter mingling with the soft rush of the current. When the sun began to dip, they returned to town, arms linked, hearts full. That evening, back at the cottage, they watched the horizon glow in shades of orange and pink. Clara rested her head against Evelyn's shoulder. "I want to keep building this life," she whispered. "Every day, every season, together." Evelyn kissed her temple, feeling the steady beat of love between them. Every day. Every season. Together. July brought freedom, light, and endless horizons, mirrored in the life Evelyn and Clara were building together. Their love had grown through autumn rain, winter frost, and spring bloom. Now, in the golden days of summer, it shone fully, expansive, and unshakable. August in Ashcombe was golden, the sun lingering late into the evening, painting rooftops and riverbanks with molten light. Evelyn stepped onto the porch, inhaling the warm air, and found Clara already there, a soft breeze catching her hair. "Sunset walk?" Clara asked, eyes bright. Evelyn smiled, slipping her hand into Clara's. "Always." They wandered along the river, the water reflecting the fiery sky. The town seemed to pause around them, quiet and bathed in light, as if August itself were celebrating their love. They stopped by their favorite old oak, the one where they had shared kisses in spring and whispered promises in summer. Clara wrapped an arm around Evelyn, drawing her close. "Do you remember last October?" she murmured, her lips brushing Evelyn's temple. Evelyn laughed softly, nodding. "How could I forget? Rain, lanterns, the beginning of everything. And now look at us," Clara said, her voice tender and sure. "Through every season, we've grown. And I've never been more certain of anything." Evelyn rested her head against Clara's shoulder. "Me neither. I've never felt this whole." The sky deepened into pink and violet, streaks of gold catching the edges of the clouds. They walked barefoot along the riverbank, toes brushing the cool water, laughter mingling with the soft murmur of the current. Every glance, every touch, every shared smile felt profound, a testament to months of growing trust, intimacy, and love. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, painting the river in molten gold, Clara pulled Evelyn close. "I love you," she whispered, her words soft but unwavering. "I love you too," Evelyn replied, fingers intertwined with hers, hearts aligned in the warm evening glow. They lingered until the first stars appeared, wrapped in each other's arms, feeling the quiet power of a love that had endured rain, frost, snow, and spring blooms, and now, under the August sun, shone fully, vibrant, and endless. Back at the cottage, they sat by the fire, the memory of the sunset lingering in their hearts. Every day, every season, had led them here, to warmth, to trust, to a love that promised to carry them through all the seasons of life. September mornings carried a soft golden light, and the air was tinged with the faint crispness of approaching autumn. Ashcombe's streets were quiet, shops opening later, leaves starting to turn shades of amber and rust. Evelyn wandered through the town square, notebook tucked under her arm, and saw Clara waiting by the fountain, a gentle smile lighting her face. "Morning," Clara said, reaching for Evelyn's hand. "Coffee before we start the day?" Evelyn smiled, squeezing her hand. "Always." They strolled through the town, letting the warm September sun filter through the trees. Conversation drifted from small daily joys to the larger picture of their life together, the growth of trust, the strength of their bond, and the quiet magic of sharing every moment. "I've been thinking," Evelyn said softly, about how far we've come since October. Every season, every challenge, it's led us here. And I feel grateful. For everything. For you. Clara's fingers brushed Evelyn's cheek, her eyes warm. I feel the same. It's been a year of discovering each other, discovering ourselves, and our love has only grown. You make my world better. They paused by the river, watching leaves drift slowly across the water's surface. The moment felt suspended in time, golden and delicate. Do you think we'll always feel this, connected? Evelyn asked, her voice tinged with wonder. Clara smiled, leaning her forehead against Evelyn's. I know we will. We've built something steady, something real. Something that will carry us through every season, every change, every challenge. Evelyn rested her head on Clara's shoulder, feeling the steady warmth of her presence. Then let's promise, she murmured, to keep cherishing this, every day, every moment. Every day, every moment, Clara echoed. They lingered by the riverbank, fingers entwined, hearts full. September's gentle sun bathed them in light, leaves rustling softly in the breeze, echoing the quiet rhythm of their love. Back at the cottage, they prepared a small dinner together, laughter and soft conversation filling the warm kitchen. The year had been a journey, from autumn rains to winter frost, through spring blooms and summer sun, and now, in early autumn, Evelyn and Clara could savor the culmination of months of love, trust, and shared growth. As the day closed, they sat together by the fire, hands entwined, hearts tethered, ready for whatever the next season would bring. Their love, cultivated through months of weathering life together, had become unshakable, a promise reflected in every glance, every touch, every quiet, treasured moment. The town of Ashcombe glowed under the soft, amber light of early October. Leaves rustled gently in the breeze, painting the streets in shades of gold and crimson. Evelyn stepped outside, inhaling the familiar scent of autumn, rain-soaked earth, fallen leaves, and the faint hint of wood smoke from chimneys. Clara was waiting by the old fountain, a scarf draped elegantly around her neck, her eyes shining with warmth. Welcome back to October, she said softly, slipping her hand into Evelyn's. Evelyn smiled, heart swelling. It feels right, doesn't it? To be here again, where it all began. They wandered through the streets, recalling the first moments of their connection, the rain, the lanterns, the shy glances and tentative smiles. Everything felt familiar yet new, as if the season itself had celebrated their journey. I can't believe how far we've come, Evelyn said, brushing her fingers against Clara's. From that first October rain to this, us. Clara leaned close, pressing a gentle kiss to Evelyn's temple. We've grown together. Every season, every challenge, every joy, it's all led to this. I love you more than words can hold. They walked along the riverbank, leaves swirling at their feet. The water reflected the soft glow of the setting sun, and for a moment, the world seemed to pause around them. Evelyn rested her head against Clara's shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of her heart. I love you too, she whispered. And I always will. Every season, every year, forever. Clara smiled, her hand brushing through Evelyn's hair. Forever, she echoed. As night fell, lanterns flickered in shop windows, casting golden light across cobblestones. Evelyn and Clara returned to the cottage, hands entwined, hearts full of gratitude and joy. They lit the fire, poured tea, and sat together, reminiscing about the past year, every autumn rain, every winter frost, every spring bloom, and every golden summer day. October had returned, and with it, the quiet, profound beauty of their love, matured, steadfast, and luminous. In Ashcombe, under the glow of lanterns and the rustle of autumn leaves, Evelyn and Clara embraced the life they had built together, knowing that whatever seasons lay ahead, their hearts would always find their way to each other. And as the fire crackled and the town slept, two women sat hand in hand, tethered by love, laughter, and the enduring promise of forever. A year had passed since that first October, when rain had drawn them together in the quiet streets of Ashcombe. The town had shifted through seasons, carrying them along in its gentle rhythm, autumn golds, winter silvers, spring blooms, and summer sunlight. And through it all, Evelyn and Clara had grown closer, their love deepening with every shared smile, every whispered promise, every quiet evening by the fire. They sat together on the porch of the cottage, the late autumn sun casting long shadows across the garden. A soft breeze stirred the leaves, carrying the crisp scent of approaching winter. Evelyn rested her head on Clara's shoulder, feeling the steady warmth of her presence. "Do you ever think about that first October?" Evelyn asked, voice soft. Clara smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Every day. That moment changed everything. And I'm grateful, for the rain, for the lanterns, for you." Evelyn laughed softly, leaning closer. "For us, too. For all of this, our life, our love, the seasons we've shared." Clara took her hand, fingers intertwining with ease. "Exactly. Every season, every day, every moment, it's ours. And it always will be." The sun dipped low, golden light catching in their hair, reflecting in their eyes. The world outside seemed still, as if holding its breath in quiet celebration of the life they had built together. Evelyn and Clara sat in that peaceful moment, hearts tethered, knowing that the love they had nurtured through rain, frost, snow, and bloom would endure all the seasons to come. In Ashcombe, under the gentle sway of autumn leaves, two women had found not only each other but a home, in the town, in the quiet streets, and, most importantly, in one another. And so, the story of Evelyn and Clara continued, woven into the rhythm of the seasons, alive in every smile, every touch, every whispered promise, a love that had begun in October, blossomed through a year, and would last forever. Through autumn rains, winter frost, spring blooms, and summer sun, Evelyn and Clara discover that love is not just a moment, it's a lifetime. In the quiet streets of Ashcombe, amidst laughter, stolen kisses, and whispered promises, they learn that true love endures every season. And as October returns, they realize some hearts, once found, never let go. Turn on notifications bell to never miss a story. Share your thoughts in the comments, we love hearing from our viewers.